Hello and welcome to Train Shed Tuesday, and as the old comedy used to say, for those who remember it, and now for something completely different. So I've been doing a lot of the 00 shunting layout, and those of you which have followed me on a few of my other videos and Instagram will know what this is about. But we've got a lot to talk about today, obviously this layout, and that brings up some questions around design of layouts and motivation and things like that. So worth staying with us. So this is the big shed layout. This is the 10-foot by 2-foot end gauge. Now this has been a possibility for several months or more since I altered the shed. This is why this big bench was built. But I got sidetracked building lots of micro layouts. And I've really enjoyed the micro layout challenge. That's gone exceptionally well. And a big thank you to everybody that's been taking part in that. But it has I was just basically going to start planning some more micro layouts. And I don't know, in one of those moments suddenly thought, you know, I really just need to get on with this. I need to get the big layout started. I need to get the track down and at least get some track in and see what it's like running big trains again, which is really what this was all about. So that's what I did the other day. It's only taken me about a week to actually get this far. And it's taken only a week to get this far because I've used Kato track, ready ballasted end gauge track, their Unitrack system. And the whole advantage of it is it just clips together. So you can lay it down, and as soon as it's laid down, it's down. There's no ballasting, there's no cork underneath to be cut, ballasting to be done, weathering to be done, track to be painted, track to be cleaned, etc., etc., which on a layout this size was going to take several months. And my attention span's not good like that. But even I've been a bit blown away about how quickly this has come along. It did help that I had an idea for the track plan. Largely thank you to a couple of great people at the Ashford show. And although I haven't actually copied their track plan exactly, it gave me the idea, which was that I wanted a terminus station and I wanted a fiddle yard, and I wasn't too sure about the rest of it. It was Doug actually, who's very briefly home, who pointed out that this long line down the front, rather than just being a single-ended goods yard, could be another line. And what it means is on here I can get effectively about 4 trains running at any one time, because I've got 2 sidings in the terminus station and I've got the 2 loops at the back, and obviously I have got a loop here, so effectively 4 or 5 trains I can alternate. It's been very interesting in the comments section. I could have run a second track, but that complicates things. And it's when you get people, well-meaning people, saying, why don't you do this, why don't you do that, it would only need another 4 points. The points are £22 each. And so you'd very quickly add up a huge sum of money, often for very little operational potential. Because quite often, and I'll come to that in a second, I'm just going to let this one run round and then I'll run the freight train round. So, for instance, on the raised area, a number of people have asked why I haven't put an incline in. There we are, we've got the freight train running now. So it would be easy to put an incline in from there somewhere up to the raised area. But what I try and explain to people is A, inclines are a pain in the arse because you've got to get the angle right to run relatively short trains up. It doesn't add anything operationally, because if you've got a train running round this loop and you want it to run round that loop, you can't have anything running on this loop. So you now have 2 giant loops running the same train. So it means you'd have to have sidings up here to hide those trains while you run a train on this loop. Also, don't forget that once it's got up here, unless you're going to reverse it down, you've got to have another point and another incline to bring it back down to the loop. So you've now got 2 points, a huge amount of track taken up with a huge amount of space taken up with track to run less trains. It doesn't make any sense. And to me, the same applies when you have double loops joined. it limits what you can run. It might add to where the train can go, but it limits your options. So for me, it's not the kind of thing I want. I also don't like to fill a layout with track. I want my trains going through the scenery. So yes, you could put a lot more in here, but it would all be track. And you end up basically, that's the problem with 00. It becomes all track because you have to, but you don't have to in N. It's been quite interesting. So a number of people have said, why didn't you move this point further that way, which would give you longer sidings? And the answer is that the head shunt isn't then long enough to store trains in. So you've still got some size constraints. A big thank you to one of the commentators who reminded me that I needed to put a beam on the edge here. So that was just screwed on to the original edge to make this track further away from the edge to avoid accidents. I had meant to do it and had forgotten, so thank you for the comment. It took me 10 minutes to do that. Now, the raised area is actually going to have a second point. It's going to have another point here, which will go to another little siding. And this is much more over-engineered than I would normally do. So you know I'm not a big fan of using timber. I believe you can use cardboard and foam board, which you can, especially for N-gauge. However, we're having some building work done, and the builders threw this, I believe it's called OSB, but I know it is chipboard, in the skip, and they threw all this battening in the skip. So that means I was able to make the raised section for free. I'm not going to make that a tunnel, because what it gives me the option of is from here, I can't see the train run through, but from there I can. So if I stand in different places, I get a different view, which strangely enough was what somebody was pointing out about a garden on Gardener's World yesterday. Lovely garden, but they put 2 seats in 2 different places to give you 2 views of a garden. And it's something we learned when we had the larger 00 gauge layout in here, was that your layout should have different views from different areas. Same with this. I am going to put a bridge there, but I'm not going to make it the traditional tunnel in the corners. Because again, from here, I don't need a tunnel. From here, it gives me another vista to watch trains run through. And I'm probably going to follow my usual backbone, the idea of having a road that runs over here, down into there, level crossing, round here or possibly through there, through the industrial area, through there and back up another hill. It's what I did on the original 00 layout that was in here. Now I've got very few ideas scenically. I know where the hill's going to go there, and I know the castle's going to go there. I know this is an industrial area. But this is another thing when you're doing a layout. Don't not lay track because you haven't decided what the scenery will be. Just go ahead. I'm just going to pause this a second. So I'm just going to take a Suburban E&U out of the Suburban station. Hope I've changed the points, yes. So don't hold the layout out while you meticulously plan every square inch. This is another way that layouts don't get built, because people think they've got to plan every single square inch before they can start building. I knew what the track plan was I wanted. Sort of dog bone, passing loops at the back, station, goods area, raised area with 2 sidings. Effectively, I can build that, get the track laid, and now I can work out where the scenery is going to go. In the meantime, I can run trains. Now we all know what will happen. When I should be building, I'll be running trains, but there you go. I'm really pleased I've got this going. I've got a number of really nice Japanese EMUs and locos. It was Father's Day at the weekend, and that was my Father's Day present from Doug last year. That, incidentally, people, was £65 brand new from Train Tracks. Look at that. All-wheel drive, all-wheel pickup. Look at the level of detail on that. Tell me in any way that that is not equal or superior, and it hasn't had its detail pack added yet, to anything UK Outline. Then flick through and see what brand new UK Outline locos you can find for £65. Because you can't. They're £100 plus. Now I know the Japanese market is different. A guy was telling me on YouTube the other day that just about every town in Japan has 1 or 2 model railway shops or hobby shops because they're big on their kits as well. So I get it's a bigger market, but that's still a huge difference in price. I was shocked to see the other day that one of the new Hornby 005 car units is going to be £550, £110 a bit. Now I might begrudgingly accept that the locomotive element needs to be £110, but £110 for an empty coach? That strikes me as bonkers. But we'll be the only of a few people that will think that. I'm sure Hornby will sell out their limited number that they will bring in, and the hobby will continue in that vein until it's shrunk to nothing, because people are being asked to pay £550 for a 5-car unit that incidentally they won't have room to run anywhere because 00 is too big. And I think that's the problem with the hobby. What's interesting is we toyed with N when we started Model Railways. We actually started with 009, toyed with N, this is 12 years ago, and at the time Kato Pocket Line wasn't available, which is what got us into N. I didn't know how cheap the Japanese stuff was, I didn't know about it. You go online and it was all old Lima and very funny old Graham Farish stuff, so we didn't do N. And we spent a number of years then doing 00, which we enjoyed thoroughly, but effectively, if we're honest, we were constantly beaten by the lack of space. And I quite understand that it's good 00 because there's loads and loads of stuff out there, and in those days, cheap second-hand stuff. And I understand talking to people recently that people still want to do 00 because it's what they remember from kids, or they've got their dad's old stuff. But in reality, folks, it's too big. You know, this shed struggled to be big enough, and it's 12 foot by 8 foot. And those of you that know what we did, we had the 00 running around here, and it was a very impressive layout. But a 5 or 6 coach train filled one side. Here we've got an 8 car unit there in N gauge, and it's easily swallowed up by 1/2 of the shed. And that siding, incidentally, would take another 4 of those coaches. It won't quite get Doug's 12 car ice in the loop. But you know, that siding here will easily take, that's let's have a look, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12, and count to 12 because I put my hands in my pockets, otherwise I ran out of fingers. That will take probably 15 wagon. A 15 wagon 00 would take the whole side of the shed. And with this stuff, just look at how smoothly and quietly it's running. If you didn't see the earlier video, yes, I know this layout baseboard is massively over-engineered. And it's massively over-engineered because it didn't cost me anything. It was timber that a friend was throwing out from an old shed base and the top of an old wardrobe that was going in a skip. And that brings me to something I discussed in the last video, is that yes, we should all be trying to be doing budget and recycled. I have had to buy some new track for this, and in fact I've got another little order of new track coming. But I think on a bigger layout it's probably hard to save money everywhere. And I've saved money in that the baseboard has cost me nothing. Half the track hasn't cost me anything. Big shout out to Mark in the US for donating it. Some of the rest of the track is second hand. Most of the buildings will be second hand. I've got my eye on a couple of new buildings that I might treat myself to, but the vast majority of buildings will be second hand. The vast majority of rolling stock and locos are either second hand, for instance that EMU, or bought very cheaply new compared to UK outline. That 8 car cost us £70 second hand. This is going to be freelance. I realise that modern is modern. Doesn't really matter if you're in the US, the UK or Japan, Germany. I'm just going to use a generic goods area, a generic suburban station. We'll see what we can do with buildings so that they're fairly generic. The castle could be just about anywhere, frankly. If anybody says, well, it's clearly not a UK castle, then I suggest you go and have a look at, I'm going to say Castle Goch. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, G-O-C-H, up in Wales, which you will find looks remarkably like that one. And then I'm just going to have fun running trains. Now that is going to go off to originally a fiddle yard through here, but I've now got the idea to make it a scenic end of what will be a branch line. So I've always wanted a complete branch line running from one end to another. So I can use this layout as one end of the layout coming into the goods yard and the station. And it's just working out how I can put a fiddle yard in, but I'm not sure I need a fiddle yard. I've got the two big passing loops at the back, and it's very easy using a re-railer to put trains onto this loop at the front. And I think this is one of the problems. Yes, if you've got the space, of course, it's lovely to have all your stock out in a massive fiddle yard. But in fact, of an evening, I probably only want to run 3 or 4 different trains, and I can simply put them on there, store them where I'm on the layout while I'm running, and then change them another time for something else. I'm going to use things like the grain silo as well to break up the sight lines. And all in all, that'll be a wonderful layout. So it's going to take quite a while, but actually I'm quite looking forward to it taking a while because I've already got trains running. So when I'm bored of working on it, I can just run trains. The top one is quite tight curbs, so that will be basically pocket line stuff. Now, as I said in the earlier video, but not everybody will have watched the earlier video, this is a real mishmash of track. You can see that's a real compound curve there. There's actually 4 different radiuses of curve in that one end. I didn't design this track plan, it evolved laying the track down, so I don't have it drawn anywhere, and neither do I know what track parts I've used. So I know I always get lots of people going, oh please Mike, what's the track list, what's the track plan? I'm really sorry, I can't tell you. The track is glued down, and even if I did you a list, you wouldn't know which bit went where, and I can't now lift it to do a track plan. What I would say is use something like AnyRail free software and design your own, because let's be honest, it's unlikely you've got exactly the same size. We will be using our own controllers. I've got a double controller, 2 controllers for the lower, one so that I can shunt here without the back loop, means I can run trains whilst I'm shunting, and one for the top here, so only 3 controllers. I can, and this whole lower level, so that is 1 loop, the passing loops, the 2 sidings there, and the branch line are all powered by 2 wires, because the power is transferred by the points completely reliably, so you don't need any of this extra wiring nonsense on the points. So when people say DC wiring is complicated, no it's not. This whole lower level is powered by 2 wires. 2 wires. You can actually do that in DC, but nobody does, because they insist on wiring every single piece of track. And I said once about that, and a DCC expert said to me, it's nonsense, you don't need to do it. You could do what you're doing with DC, 2 wires and the points shift it. But nobody does, because they think they want to run more than 1 train at once on a 1 loop, and because they think they have to do it to be sure. I even know people who have done it on DC because they've watched videos and been told, do a bus wire, every bit of track needs to be wired to be reliable. I'm sorry guys, it's utter nonsense. I'm sorry to be that strong-minded, but this is running completely reliably off of 2 wires. There is absolutely no need to go to all the trouble of putting extra pickups on. For what reason? Anyway, that's my rant out of the way. I do like a little rant in every video, and actually most of you now, we're 19 minutes in, there'll only be about 4 people and the dog's still watching this, so it won't upset too many people. So there we go. Quite a long Trainshed Tuesday. We did miss it last week. We're very busy at the moment with the build and getting Doug up to Cheltenham. I'll let you into a secret, those of you that are still here. This wasn't filmed on Tuesday. This was filmed on Saturday, so that I could put it up on Tuesday, because otherwise lots of people are going to miss out. Now, another quick apology. Because Doug is between homes, he has no computer, and he monitors our website, which is where people are sending fantastic, wonderful images of their shelf layouts. It will be about a week before Doug can get his computer up and running. So if you've submitted images and they're not on the website, they will be in about a week, 10 days time. Please be patient with us. Once Doug is in his new home at Cheltenham, then he'll have his internet up and running and we can upload them. So there we go. An awful lot suddenly happened. I hope you're enjoying your railways. I know a great many of you that have done the shelf layout, Sam, and I'm so pleased that it's inspired lots of people to have a first go at doing railways. That was really more than I hoped for. So thank you guys to everybody that's had a go. And we'll be speaking to you again soon. I might just end with some close-ups of this running and I'll stop talking for a little while. I'll just end with another shot of that fabulous loco. £65, remember people, still available on Traintrack's website. Some of their electric locos at around the £65–70 mark. So when you're saving up £140 plus for your UK outline electric and diesel locos, you might like to have a little look online at some of this Kato stuff. Just a thought.